I have one more chance to not ruin this machine. If you're getting some kind of mental health support or counseling or whatever, those medical records will show some deep things that may be in there. Can you guess what item of personal data is the most or for sale on the dark markets?
Just do something. Doing nothing is no longer an option.
Welcome to the SafetyNet podcast by ArkCybr. My name is Josh Lewis, and I'm your host and producer. And with me, as always, I have Sean Artizone, who is the CEO and co-founder of ArkCybr. And he, I said co-founder. I feel like because
John Woo.
I feel, I think because of John Woo, and I always think about how Megan said
really
everything. So anyways, Megan is Sean's wife. So anyways, but he is also the genius hacker, brains and heart of the podcast. And today, if you are listening on audio, I will put this in the show notes because you are going to want to watch this episode because Lord willing, you're going to see some really cool things because we're going to talk today about when it's too late with cyber attacks. So say you get hacked, what do you do? And so Sean, let's just get right into it because we want to give you as much time as possible. But let's start out with what kinds of cyber attacks are most common for families and how do they happen?
So to kind of tell you what is, most common with families, I think we'll just kind of take the global most common cyber attacks and we'll just kind of run through those. And so there, there's a list of just the things that everything that's going on in the world. And families aren't necessarily exempt from them, but just to give everybody kind of an understanding of what the 10 most common types of attacks are. And so CrowdStrike is a cybersecurity firm, fantastic platform and enterprise and the federal space. They work in all areas of the world. And so they have a report that they published that highlights basically the 10 most common types of cyber attacks. And so I'll be kind of quoting from their list, but they're a legitimate source. You can look them up at crowdstrike.com. So number one is in the world. This is just everything. 10 most common types of cyber attacks. And starting with number 10 is what's called an IoT-based attack. IoT stands for Internet of Things. If you have an Alexa, if you have a Google Mini, if you have a Google Chromecast, if you have a Fire TV stick or a smart thermometer or a smart washer and dryer, those are all things that are on the internet. And so IoT-based attacks, that kind of falls into it. Now, industry may have some similar technologies that they've deployed in their environment, like smart thermometers, building controls, SCADA type things that, when somebody walks into a room, all the lights come on, it's motion detected, then they walk out, then the lights go out because they're trying to maintain energy efficiency. They may have, all kinds of different types of IoT things. So enterprise level IoT is very similar to the IoT that a person would find in their home. DNS tunneling, domain name services. So domain name, I've explained this before. If you have DNS, basically what DNS is if I say, hey, everybody that's watching this podcast, come to Sean Artizone's house. If you don't know my physical address, you have to convert my name or the term Sean Artizone's house to an address to be able to turn that into numbers that you can then send over to your navigation device to get here. But people that know me already know how to convert that name to numbers, and they can just show up without looking it up, without doing anything. DNS basically does the same thing. It takes a name, Google.com, CrowdStrike.com, Facebook.com, whatever, and converts it to IP address numbers, usable IP addresses that the computer can use. And so DNS tunneling is the number 9 common type of attack that things can happen. And so DNS tunneling, I won't bore you with all the details of it. If you're interested and you want to know what that is, you can go look it up. The number 8 most common type of cyber attack is an insider threat. So this is prevalent in organizations, it's government, but it's also prevalent in your own house. And you may not even realize you have an insider threat. If you have a user that's sitting on a computer doing things and they are intentionally looking at harmful content, and remember, harmful content covers an entire array of just things that can be bad. That person has brought a threat inside your environment. And so you have an insider threat. Now, the way that it is defined in government or enterprise, it could be a person, a rogue spy that is hired to bring on, to do damage from inside. They could, be gaining access to files and shared drives and folders and things that they shouldn't have. So the way that it looks could be different for a home user versus an organization, but there is still the potential. Supply chain attacks, not so common in the home environment. However, still possible based on, you may, interact with Kroger, you may interact with Walmart, you may interact with some things that you're bringing into your home from a vendor type perspective. So if you buy this, next gen router that's sold on Amazon, and all of a sudden it's got all these backdoors to your technology, that's a supply chain attack. That you've now introduced something from a vendor into your environment that has caused a breach or whatever. Code injection attacks, a lot of, that was number 7, supply chain attacks. Number 6 is code injection attacks. Most families are not going to find this in their own environment. Enterprise and industry that creates their own web pages, their own apps, their own dev type things, they will discover and be subjected to potential code injection attacks. Identity-based attacks and spoofing are 5 and 4. Number 3 is phishing. A lot of people know what phishing is. You see these emails come in all the time. Hey, I have an uncle. You're the now inheritant of millions of dollars. The way that it looks changes. It varies across the spectrum. One of the most current ways and successful ways now is phishing through like Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, all the platform messaging, DM messaging platforms, where they're sending out a legitimate looking message to the user saying, hey, this is platform support. You violated our T's and C's, and now we're going to cancel your account. If you want to remediate this, go ahead and follow these steps. Here's a legitimate looking page, which is a parked domain. We talk about some of those. They're no longer parked. Now they're using the domain for malicious intent. So they phished you. They got you to go to that domain. You've entered your valid credentials. They then log in with your account and wreak havoc on your life. So phishing is the number 3. Denial of service attacks. Denial of service attacks are either whether they're coming from like IP packet flooding, or they're just simply locking you out of your account. Any type of, and this is the number 2, any type of attack that denies the lawful users access to their service can fall under the DOS attack. Now there's a distributed denial of service, which is where basically a botnet, and if you read in any of the cyber news in the last couple of days, you noticed the FBI made a huge announcement regarding the dismantling of a massive botnet. We'll put that link in the show notes here so you can go check out that. Hats off to the FBI for taking down a massive global botnet that was just wreaking havoc on people's lives. But a distributed denial of service uses things like botnets to just flood the server with requests that it can't handle. And at the point where it can't handle it, the server stops taking requests, and legitimate users now that are sending legitimate requests can no longer access that device, access that resource, access that service, whatever it may be. But that's another form of denial of service. So it literally is in the name for number 2. So the number one most common type of cyber attack is malware. And so malware, everybody, I'm sure you're familiar with that term. You've heard it. Hopefully you've heard it. Hopefully that word is not new to your life. But malware is the number 1, according to CrowdStrike's 10 most common types. And stick around, because at the end of our conversation here, I'm actually going to detonate malware live in and on a Windows machine. So you don't want to miss that. It's going to be very exciting. And so I look forward to being able to show you these things. So talking about your question, what are most common with families and how do they happen, Josh? That is, according to CrowdStrike.com, that is the 10 most common that happen to everybody. Okay. Just where you fall, if you're an enterprise, federal or a government agency, nation state, or a person, we can drill down and focus on what happens, more likely what happens to home users. So
great. Yeah, I think that's helpful. So yeah, talk to me specifically about, because you did a little bit of like, okay, like code injection, probably not exactly something that will happen to most families, but like phishing for sure, malware, like those kinds of things for sure. Yeah. What are some of those? Let's talk more specifically, then about what are the things that like I might face or a regular person, family might face.
Yeah. So I took some of the data points from CrowdStrike's information and I cross-referenced with another great source that's TrendMicro. TrendMicro has been around for a long time. A lot of people are familiar with the name. They had have or had an antivirus platform for a long time. And so they've published a list that basically drills down and gives more specifics into the common threats that home users would face. And they actually provide some good information on actually how to defend against them, which we'll kind of touch on these here. According to TrendMicro.com, the number one issue that home users are going to face as far as cyber attacks is going to be ransomware. It's currently the most damaging threat to ordinary users. This kind of malware, and it's a form of malware. It's malicious software. The word shrunk down to malware. But this type of software, ransomware, is designed to take all of the files of the user, everything that they can reach from that moment that they have rights to the machine, and encrypt it and then lock it with a key that the only way you get those files unlocked is if you pay some extortionate amount of money, usually hundreds of dollars, to the attacker to have them, with no guarantee, unlock the files that they've now encrypted. So this business became so lucrative that the ransomware attackers actually set up a no-kidding customer service hotline where you could message the attacker, pay your support, and they would walk you through the process of unlocking and then ask you for a feedback survey when it was done. It just like, are you kidding me? Like they turned
that is insane
criminality into a legitimate business model and provided a service desk for support. It's just ridiculous. So ransomware, if you've been a victim of ransomware, you know, as a home user, the possibility of getting your files back because of the amount of money that they charge, $300 to $500 per user, but they want it in Bitcoin. Most home users haven't even ventured into the Bitcoin world. If they have, it just presents a whole nother realm of danger. So what ends up happening is they wipe their drives and just kind of start over. So it's very damaging, especially if they have, tons of family records and, pictures and just all the stuff that the disruption. It's like getting your home broken into. It's that violation kind of feeling. And so ransomware can be delivered by going to unknowingly malicious sites. You can open a malicious email. You can run an executable that you think is legitimate. You can go download some free software and end up giving yourself the malware. It may not even just be a hacker. Just, they just put it out there and people are going fishing in the wrong ponds. So ransomware is a big deal. That's the number one, according to TrendMicro's. The next is going to be identity theft and the value of your personal data. So when the hackers, if the hackers can gain access to your identity and to your personal data, there's actually a study that was published it's in this TrendMicro. We'll post the link for this where you can actually go read it. And I've just kind of shortened it down into some little bullets here, but they actually placed a monetary value on a bunch of this stuff that belongs to individuals, their personal data, basically. Can you guess what item of personal data is the most expensive that are for sale on the dark markets?
Social security number.
Social security number. You would think the social security number would rank the highest, but it actually didn't. There's actually a few things that rated a little bit higher. You want to take another guess?
Phone number? I don't know.
Yeah, phone number is important, especially with SIM swapping attacks, which we talked about, I think, on the previous episode. But the number one valued personal data item is passwords. And so if I don't have to break your password and I can just use your password, then that saves me a ton of time. Brute forcing attacks, they're called. If I take a dictionary of just every English word of every, foreign word, whatever I'm focusing on, if I take a dictionary and just put all the words in it, and that dictionary can break your password's too weak. So what did we do? We created password complexity policies and password complexity rules that a lot of these services are providing and telling us, hey, your password's too weak. So we've thrown an exclamation point here, an @ symbol there, maybe a 1, 2, 3 or whatever.
Yes.
But just as well as I know that, every hacker in the world knows that. And so now the dictionary's gotten bigger. So now instead of letters and numbers, right, or words and numbers with 1, 2, 3 and an exclamation, now we have to use more special characters and don't make them dictionary words. If your password still has a word in it that you can find in a dictionary, that's a weak password, because that dictionary will then just use a permutation, stick a few numbers here and there, stick a few things, and they can make these dictionaries petabytes large. So these are massive dictionaries of every possible guess. So The complexity of the password has reduced the ability of a brute forcing attack to happen quickly, and typically the types of supercomputers and heavy duty super purpose computers that can do that kind of processing using petabytes of data to run against a machine has been mitigated by, you get 3 password guesses and then your account's locked. You get 3 password guesses in an hour and then your account's disabled. So there's some brute forcing mitigation attacks that have been brought into place to reduce that possibility, but it doesn't stop the regular account that doesn't have any of those things from being brute force. So if I can just use your password, I'm in. And so that's why it has the highest value. So if they can break into a thing and steal a database of passwords, those are worth $75.80 per password, according to this study. The next highest value is going to be your health info and medical. And that's rated at about about $60 per record. U.S. respondents actually gave it a higher rating than the European respondents did. Americans said that their medical records and info are worth about $82 per record, and Europeans said they're roughly about $35. So
now real quick, are you saying these are hackers that are saying that information
that's
is
what
worth
they pay
that
to receive
to
it?
me?
Yes.
Okay,
exactly.
I'm tracking.
Yeah. If you have a database full of passwords, I'll pay you $75 a password. If you have a database full of health records, I'll pay you $60 a password, or a record, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. And so can you take a stab at why you think health info and medical records are of significant value? Why they would pay $60 a record?
I don't know. I feel like there's like there's just different things I feel like attached with that. So I don't know.
Yeah. So you're right. The array of what can be done with a medical record is pretty wide. But what I've seen and heard and read is that if I can know what's going on in your medical, I can actually extort you. I can blackmail you, especially if your medical records have any type of mental treatment, right? You've disclosed things into your mental records. If you're getting some kind of mental health support or counseling or whatever, those medical records will show some deep things that may be in there. Also, I can maybe you've kept an HIV secret from your family, and I can extort you. I'm going to release this, make this public, blah blah blah. So many types of things can be used to leverage that person into paying.
Sure.
And so if I can buy those records on the dark web and use them against the person, that's basically what they're thinking. So then the next highest is going to be social security numbers. That was your guess. So it rated 3. You made it into the top 5 in your guess, which is good. Yes. And that's kind of where you'd expect social security numbers to fall in the higher tiers, and it does. It's number 3. Sure. Social security numbers are rated, according to TrendMicro, about $55.70 per social security number. So if they can get a hold of a valid database of that, that's what they're going to get. U.S. citizens, Japanese citizens, and European citizens, all roughly, U.S. citizens and Japanese citizens rated them about $45 to $43 per record, whereas Europeans, they dropped theirs to about $20. Their value for the people willing to buy them dropped it to about $20. Your purchase history came in next after social security numbers. Your physical location information, your home address, things like that, those came next, and they went from purchase history to $20 a record, physical location to about $16 a record, and your home address down to about $12 per record. So the interesting thing was with the physical location. U.S. citizens, the respondents, people who responded said, yeah, I'd pay this much for it. U.S. respondents said they would pay roughly $40 per record, whereas Japanese and European citizens said, nah, it's only about $4 to $5 per record. So they don't really place that high of a value on it, whereas the U.S. respondents to this survey said they'd pay about $40 to know where somebody actually is. And you can see that in those. There's tons of those like locator services that you find online when you type in somebody's name. That's roughly kind of what they're looking for. And it's not so much open source intelligence. You can do public record search and find, but you have to know some specifics to get things that aren't necessarily public record. So, but American respondents placed that at about $40, almost 10 times more than Japanese and European citizens placed physical locations. So yeah, home address fared about the same between U.S. consumers and Japanese consumers. European, same. They were about $5 a person. So about 3 times more between U.S. and Japanese. They rated it. Photos and videos, U.S. Leading the way again, $26 per record, whereas Japanese and European citizens about $5. And your marital status made the list. About $8 a record. Japanese citizens actually rated this one higher, nearly double than the U.S. and European citizen value. Japanese citizens say this is about $12, $13 per record, whereas U.S. and European citizens say it's only about $6 to know if I'm married or not. So, and then name and gender, they were the least valued on the database information at about $3 a record. So, that's the kind of things that they're after. So, identity, there's a market for things that the hacker underworld wants to know about us. And so identity theft is going to be the next most common, according to TrendMicro's list here, the next most common type of attack. So identity theft, data breaches is third on their list. And so data breaches basically is any form of unintended access to your personal private data that you didn't intend. Unintended access that you didn't intend. Kind of memo from the Department of Redundancy Department. So, yeah. So more of our personal information is being stored by companies like Amazon, Apple, Facebook. Anywhere we put our stuff, our data goes on. And so the breach may not necessarily be something in our home, but something we access from our home and allow to be stored elsewhere. And so you see it all the time. Facebook just announced, I don't know, it was a year ago or whatever, 3 or 30 million records of their users' data left on an open development server somewhere, and literally included names, passwords, phone numbers, email, basically the cornucopia of data that the jackpot, the vault, left it out there. Probably should have looked it up for this one, but it was a massive data breach. Target had a massive data breach. John Woo, on our previous guest, just reposted the Las Vegas casino had their entire thing breached and stolen, and that all from an IoT thermostat that was in a fish tank. They have an internet connected thermostat that they had connected to. If you read the story, this is basically the breakdown. They had a thermostat in a fish tank that was connected to a computer, that computer had administrative privileges to the casino's network, and they were able to pivot through the network to find resources and things that they shouldn't have had access to, stole a bunch of data, and a lot of the patrons of that casino, their information was exposed, including their credit card numbers and all that kind of stuff. Massive, massive data breach. So the home user itself wasn't necessarily the victim. The home wasn't the victim, but the person who lived there had their data somewhere else. And so data breaches are quite common, according to TrendMicro here. And I would tend to agree with them. That's in the top 5. Malicious or harmful content, it could be pornographic or whatever, but it's some type of harmful ad. Malicious ads makes their number 4. And so advertising is everywhere. Everywhere you go, you're going to see ads. You're going to see, hey, buy my thing and do this. And even this kind of show is an advertisement for my services. And so there's a good way to do ads, and then there's, a malicious way to do ads. And so what happens is, because these platforms are providing a path for the advertiser to submit their ad, they're really kind of monetarily incentivized to just look the other way. Now, the ad has to follow their guidelines, but there's nobody watching the ad that gets published. There's just an algorithm that confirms whether this ad meets the guidelines. And as long as they kind of mask the ad, they publish it, they're spending that money, and they're allowing the ads to go out, because that revenue, that company is all about making revenue. Ads are a form of revenue for Facebook, for Twitter, for all these platforms, all these social media platforms. Ads are a form of revenue for them, so that they don't have a person going, yep, this ad is approved. Yep, this ad is approved. They have an algorithm checking it. And so they've learned how to beat the algorithm to get their harmful content containing ad past the algorithm and out into the world. Now, it's only a matter of time before somebody says, this ad is hosting some kind of harmful content. This ad is doing this and doing that, and people start reporting it, then a person now scrutinizes the ad and goes, oh, come on, man, and then they delete it. Then potentially that person that launched the ad, their ad account gets banned or gets kicked from the platform. Then they just create a new fake email, a new whatever, and they stand up and then they use the stolen credit cards that they gathered from those databases and purchase more ads, and the whole cycle continues. So we are exposed to ads everywhere. But what Trend is talking about is malicious ads, and you may see them appear on the side of your browser experience. You may see them appear, just in a pop-up on your phone that you're watching at the bottom of maybe the bottom of your TikTok. You'll see a little ad, and it'll be suggestive, or it'll say something, and then you click on it and it takes you to a full-on pornographic video. And so that is what they're referring to. Some of them not only having that type of stuff, but they'll have malicious code. And once you click that, it's almost like the code then injects a hook into your session and starts to try to siphon any data it can. If you don't have your device presently patched, and they found an exploit that they can inject into there, then that, they begin now the work of looking for deeper vulnerabilities. So, and now one of I think they're pretty cool from a red team perspective. Like, I like that these tools exist because they help us, guys like me, do our job, find and secure and fix these. But these are called RATs, remote access tools. And you see, if you watch any of the YouTube hero takes down scammer, basically what they are doing, what these scammers are doing, and what the anti-scammers are doing is they're sending remote access tools, remote administration tools to the victims or the scammers, which I guess in that case would be the victim. It's like a shooting a criminal, and now he's the victim because he got shot for
right.
Yeah. So breaking the law to get lawbreakers, right? Whatever.
right.
So, a whole other discussion. But anyway,
yes.
Yeah, remote access tools, it's a form of malware, right? But they're tools that are designed with good intent. So you can remote to a desktop, and this is what I do with some of my clients. So some of the clients are like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Can you just do this for me? Yes, I will use a remote access tool. I will then control your mouse. I will make the necessary security changes and do a legitimate business purpose with that tool. And so they're like, hey, these tools are great because they're designed with the intent to allow significant control over that machine by the developer, because people are like, oh yeah, I don't actually have to come sit down at your desk to fix the problem. I can sit in, my house over here, and you can sit in your house, and we can have, it's like we're in the same room. Wow, right. I love this. And so they take these same tools and they use them against potential victims. So that is the fifth most common. I think that's the end of Trend's list for what a home user would find.
Okay, so like you said, we've got identity theft stuff, ransomware, we have data breaches, malicious, harmful content ads, and remote access tools. Mm-hmm. So how about you show us a little bit of what some malware might look like, in case hopefully none of you ever experience this beyond watching this video.
Yeah.
However, if you do, Sean, would you just show us that demonstration you were talking about?
Yeah, I've been super excited about this. So I want to give a shout out to the Cyber Mentor. So as an ethical hacker pen tester, I have to maintain my skill set. I have to do a lot of continual education training, a lot of things that just require me to learn more, delve deeper, and get more experience. And so I have taken a ton of the Cyber Mentors courses, TCM, and so we'll put the link to that. But this specific course I was taking is a forensic and malware analysis course. And so as I was going through, the instructor in that course, you can look him up. We'll put his information in here too. But as I was going through, he kind of started to explain, all right, we're going to detonate a live piece of malware here. And, hopefully you're having the same type of butterfly in your stomach feeling that I'm having. And I no kidding I was like, I'm about to detonate live malware. Like, this is crazy. It felt like, oh my gosh. And so, this is a fantastic course. If you're interested in cybersecurity, the Cyber Mentors stuff is just so incredibly relevant to the cyber world. If you have a little hacker that wants to learn, go to their website, go to TCM. We'll have it in the show notes, and you can get there. But their courses are absolutely incredible. The people there are absolutely incredible. They have a Discord server where they talk with you. They actually interact with the students. They provide actual mentorship and even like job searching. And I'm ending up doing a commercial for the Cyber Mentor, and I don't intend to.
Right.
But they're really, really great. They're great people. So anyway, all right. Off of that, so this piece of malware, this is the actual WannaCry malware. This is it right here. And so
now,
it doesn't.
wait, what is WannaCry like a famous one?
It is.
I guess.
It's
okay.
a super famous
right.
one, yeah. Is a legitimate full piece of malware. If I were to drag this out of this environment and put this on my desktop, this would do what the creators of this piece of malware intended it to do. And this is, they call it WannaCry because when you detonate this on your system, it makes you want to cry. It's kind of like,
I'm nervous.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
you feel it, right?
Even just watching you do this, I know this is a secured, supposedly environment, but I'm like nervous.
Let me double
watching
check my
you do
settings
this.
just to make sure, because I did make a network change so that I could update some settings. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. So I'm on an internal network. This network is isolated from my environment. It cannot get out to me. I say that.
He's double checking. Yeah, this is good, right?
Yeah,
like,
it is. I mean, this is handling a very dangerous piece of software. And so what you may find in your experience is you click a link, you open a page, whatever, and you're going to see what this looks like when we detonate this piece of malware here. And so you'll be kind of like anticlimactic, maybe. I don't know. So enough delaying. This is a live piece of malware.
Drum roll.
Yep. I want you guys to focus. See, this is the instructor's picture of his cat. It's a great picture. But here we go. We're gonna detonate this, and we're gonna do it with administrator privileges. Just so I tell people, and like I'm like kind of hovering over the trigger here of like, just don't click it yet. I tell people all the time, you do not want to live your technology life as an admin. You want to live your technology life as a user. And when you need to become an administrator, you do your admin things. And then when you're done doing your admin things, you go back down to just being a regular user. You password protect the administrator rights to that device so that nobody can just right click and run as administrator like I'm about to. And then when you can feel the suspense. When I click this, it's gonna be given full admin privileges, and you're gonna see what the malware does. All right. Who's ready? Gotta give me a drum roll on the countdown. All right, we're gonna run this live piece of malware right now. Here we go. Running as administrator. Oh, I gotta say yes. I have one more chance to not ruin this machine. So that's kind of a neat thing that Microsoft put into place. So without further ado, here we go. Oh no, nothing happened. Oh, there we go. So we got some things that just appeared on the desktop.
Okay.
They're readme files. What is this? Whatever. Oh, and then I got what is this? A decryptor.exe. This is some kind of decryptor, some file that just appeared. Want to decrypt? So it's kind of neat. They made a play off of the name. Do you want to decrypt your files? So far, it doesn't look like anything's happened. Oh, Cosmo. Cosmo no longer is a picture of a cat. Now Cosmo has just some kind of weird, JPEG iconification, but it's actually not the picture anymore. So we don't know what's going on in the background. We don't know what's happening as this thing is now running rampant through my system here. And I have no idea what's taking place.
Oh, man.
Yep. This tool actually has a neat validation, a parameter check. And so forensic experts can use their tools to, and there's a tool called, what happened?
Stuff just deleted.
Yep, there we go. It's deleting all my stuff now. Yeah, and then this desktop background, this is a Flare VM desktop. It has a bunch of tools, and this is all, again, course material designed by the Cyber Mentor for his forensic and malware analysis course. Oops, all my files have been encrypted. So if you've ever seen this page, I'm so sorry that you have, because this is just a disheartening feeling. They've given you given me a countdown timer. I have 2 days and 24 hours, basically. In 3 days, what's going to happen is all of my files are going to be permanently locked, and I have no way to recover them. So they kindly gave me a Bitcoin wallet to go ahead and send the payment over to, if I just, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay. But you have no guarantee that they're going to pay. But look, they gave us a contact us form.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can copy their Bitcoin wallet. You can send the payment over. I wouldn't do it. But what happens on a lot of people's computers is this wanted decrypt executable gets caught by your antivirus. It gets recognized by your AV as, this is a malicious file and we got to get rid of this. Well, then what happens is, if all you see on your screen is this text right here, oops, your important files are encrypted. If you see this text but you don't see the wanted decrypt exe, your antivirus removed the decryption software, or you just deleted it from your computer. You're like, I don't know what this is. I don't want to decrypt anything. Well, they've put in a way to prevent you from using antivirus to stop this, because it's too late. All your files are encrypted. So if I try to open the Cosmo JPEG, it's now encrypted with a WNCRY file extension. What do I do? I can't even open my port, the little kitty cat picture. And so your antivirus will get rid of this, but it prevents you from decrypting. So you have to restore it back to your computer and then follow their process to get your files decrypted. And so, you have a choice now, like when your files are going to be lost. September 9th at 1:32, all the files on this poor little machine are going to be gone. Cosmo is going to be lost forever. And so this is what it looks like. So you notice right away, nothing happened. Like at first it was just quiet. It was just whatever. Then we saw some things appear. We saw some files appear. Then we saw some files disappear, and things just started happening. So you may not even see what we call IOCs, or what the industry calls IOCs, indicators of compromise. You may not even see that happening. And as you're progressing, I was kind of making a point before, if you have some type of device that looks for these types of malware and these ransomwares, and it prevents them from reaching out to their command and control server, they'll just sit quiet and wait. They'll sit quiet and not do anything. They won't fully execute. And it's because the developers of the malware have put into it the ability for the ransomware and the malware to just sit there and know they have some kind of detection. I have to wait until I'm in a safe environment, a safe for the malware environment, before it actually detonates. And so this was looking for, in the course, there's an application, and malware analysts use this. It's called INetSim. And literally what it does is it simulates the internet. And so it actually checks, is INetSim in use? Am I in a sandbox? Am I in a place where, somebody's trying to analyze me? And so they use it as a defense mechanism to keep their malware from being reverse engineered, and figure out all the, checks and balances that are in place, so that, good guys can defeat this stuff and keep it from happening. And so it has intelligence built into it. So it looks for these things, and it says, am I in a safe environment? Can I detonate? It says, am I in a virtual machine? Am I in a virtual machine? If I'm in a virtual machine, I don't want to detonate, because I don't want them to know how my code works, and I want them to be able to research it. So you may not see it happen.
Crazy.
Yeah, wild stuff how they do this. And it's, there's some really great minds, but they're just using them terribly, for evil purposes. So yeah, there you go.
Man,
live malware.
Okay. So
everybody can breathe now. Like, yeah.
I feel like this is a great segue to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do? What do you do next? Like, so say something, you get ransomware like this or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you do? Like, obviously you're not supposed to just delete the thing. Like, that's not going to help.
Yeah. So let me exit out of here and I'll show you. So in this case, because I've taken a snapshot of this virtual machine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to power off the machine, and I'm going to restore that snapshot. So this snapshot is essentially just a backup, right? And so with ransomware, they're going after everything that it can reach within, kind of arm's length. It has, some of the ransomware has the ability to pivot through the network and tunnel out and dig and find things that may be connected drives, connected, folders, things like that. And so essentially, all I'm going to do is return this machine to the state that it was before we detonated the malware. And all I have to do is hit OK. The machine itself is going to reboot. As soon as that machine reboots, you'll see that it actually, you won't see it reboot because I have that. I just restored it. I didn't actually restart it. And so I'll bring this back up here. But so it shows that I have it in a pre-detonation state. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And this is all, so this is essentially a backup. I've taken a good known backup of this computer and detonated the malware. I got infected by the malware. Oh no. But now because I have a good, useful backup, I'm able to just wipe it and then restore just like it never even happened. And so in a second here, you'll see our little picture, or actually the instructor's picture of Cosmo here. And you'll see that the machine is basically restored to its pre-malware, values. And so if you have a good oops, I just hit cancel. If you have a good backup, it's just that easy to restore your machine. So you don't have to pay the ransomware. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Backups are important. So the first thing, though, just like you saw, I was disconnected. I was not connected to an environment that this could reach out further and further affect all my other machines. I don't think you're going to go through all that. The easiest, quickest thing is to disconnect that from the internet, period. Shut your Wi-Fi off on the device, disconnect the Ethernet cable from the device. Just stop letting them have control if they do have a remote access tool built in, because you couldn't tell if the malware put a rat on there. All you know is that your files are encrypted. So is there a rat? Is there not a rat? I have no idea. Cut off their access, isolate that device. And then the best thing you can do is hire a pro to look into, restoring the service. And so what they'll do is they'll sanitize the drives, they'll sanitize the connections, whatever it is that you have that has been compromised. A pro is probably your only, your safest recourse. Unless you're a pro, then you already know the steps that you can take. But in the short term, those are things that you're going to want to do immediately. Get that device off the network, keep it from spreading to the other devices and other members of your family for that matter. And then the long term, you got to learn from what caused that hack. Like what right. was my number one error? As you
Don't
saw,
be insane and do the same thing
over and over. Yeah, as you saw, that malware couldn't just run, right? This machine was running as a limited user who had admin privileges. So I had to run that piece of malware as an administrator. And then I had another confirmation window that said, yeah, I'm good. I want to run it. And then when I ran it, then it was given full privileges. So Microsoft, even Mac OS and Ubuntu, they all have kind of that user access control, that UAC window that pops up now and says, hey, it looks different on all the different operating systems, but there's some other check in place. Like, are you really sure? Do you trust it? And if your gut is like, oh, am I? Ask somebody else, ask an expert, have somebody analyze it. There's a website called VirusTotal. You can literally take that file and drag it to VirusTotal.com, dump it on their site and let them inspect it. Learn from what caused it, and then try not to take those steps again. Learn some cyber basics and key indicators, what they look like, right? So a lot of people are getting from their jobs, their day-to-days, they're getting training to like recognize what phishing is. And if I say the word phishing and you're familiar with that term, you've already kind of done this in your life. You don't have to be an IT expert. You don't have to be a hacker like me. You can just learn some of the basic things and educate yourself. And I go back to this analogy, the riding the bike thing, and why ArkCybr exists. And it's not just for children. This is for everybody. You wouldn't give the child keys to a motorcycle and let them go. You would put them on an age-appropriate, bike or a big wheel or a trike, whatever, and let them then use the thing. There's so many inexperienced people on the internet, millions and millions of people who have no idea how dangerous the internet is. And I actually have found a whole side, like a side hustle of helping people that just don't know what they're doing. And this is what ArkCybr is, right? A whole nother side thing of being able to just try to help make people smarter and use the internet safer, because they don't think it's that bad of a place. We grew up with the internet, and you and I, we did grow up with it. And now the younger generations and all that, everybody's experiencing it. And literally everybody's handing the keys to a brand new Harley to their children. And the children are growing up with this thing and they're just using it thinking, oh, safe this and safe that. And, it's fun to watch all the fun videos and it's fun to, be able to connect and it's fun to be able to get educated. And it's fun. It is. It absolutely is. That the things that this technologically advanced world has brought are amazing. But it's dangerous, absolutely dangerous. And until they, give themselves that little bit of education, and you don't want the education to come on the other side of a compromise, on the other side of a hack. You want to kind of have a little bit of knowledge, like, oh, that's what the clutch is for. Oh, that's what the brake is for, right? You don't want to. Yeah. And then one of my wife says this all the time. She's like, "You always think so negative about people." I'm like, it's because I know a lot about people from, I was in the military. I've seen, the dark side of the world. I just say, be skeptical of everyone, even us, right? Don't just take what I say at full. Look into it yourself and see, like, man, is this actually true? Is it really ransomware? Go to these sites, go to CrowdStrike, go to TrendMicro, pick other sources for yourself and see if what I'm saying is true. Vet it yourself and then just, do that. And then don't trust every email. Don't trust every phone call. Don't trust every messenger, right? When a valid platform needs to reach out to you, they're not going to do it over those insecure methods, right? And more than likely, they're not going to do it at all. They're not going to reach out to you and say, we need your information. You got to give us your information. And if they are a legitimate platform, they will never, ever ask you for your password, ever, period. They don't
actually they explicitly say we will never do this.
100%. So, if they're asking you to put your credentials into something, it's not real. It's fake. You don't do it into something that I've handed you. Yes, please enter your password into this thing here. Trust me.
Right.
Yeah. You don't.
Right. They have it.
They have all they need. Yeah. They just need you. Just need to go to the site yourself. Don't go to the thing that they've provided for you to just conveniently enter your credentials here. They're stealing your information. Right. And then put mitigators in risk, right? This is another thing that you can do after the attack, as you're picking up all the pieces, but you don't want this to happen again. You want to put mitigators in place. And so I'm working with some people who I am trying to help them reduce their attack surface, right? That's in my full-time job. As I design and help solution these things, we put things into place that mitigate as much risk as possible. We don't just say, here's the wide open, dirty internet, yeehaw, everybody get on after it. No. Business spends billions of dollars on cyber experts and blue teams and red teams and research and cyber this and cyber that, because they realize having the wide open dirty on their enterprise infrastructure was costing them millions of dollars in losses. And so they put these things into place. Now, home users haven't woken up to the fact yet that they need to do something. They need to do something to put these mitigating risk reducers in place. So putting a DNS filter on, like we talked about on the previous episodes, putting a parental control platform of some kind in place, using a managed router service, using something to reduce the attack surface that just the average home user is exposed to. So those are some things. And there's a great website. It's Cisa.gov, the Cisa.gov. It's the Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency. They publish some things that you can go to. A lot of people, they don't trust government websites, but this actually has some pretty basic things that you can do. And so they recommend turning on multi-factor authentication. We talked about that on one of the browser hacking password episode. Updating your software, right? We talked about that. Keep your software up to date. Think before you click and use strong passwords. And so those are their 4 basic recommendations. The Cisa, Cisa.gov. We'll put a link to that site in the description of the show notes, but you can go there, read, just get a little bit more familiar with this Harley Davidson that you're riding and understand that it's a dangerous but fun piece of equipment if you are well trained and versed in how to operate it properly.
Anyone who is listening, I would recommend checking out that link, but also just reaching out to Sean. I feel like this is literally his world, and he helps you set up your devices and everything to help mitigate things, and he does it for free. So go to ArkCybr.com, click the free consultation, fill out the form, go do that. But also, as a reminder, his services, this podcast, the resources we're making, it is crowd funded. Please consider paying it forward. We'd really appreciate it so we can make more content like this.